Pile 1, so let's see what secret the universe wants to reveal to you. We have Virgo and the 11th house, which is associated with Aquarius. We have a blessing from Queen Ma. I hope I said that right. Actually, I think that's a B, Queen Mob. I don't know. We have Justice, Cannabis, and we have Escapist, Come Home to Yourself. Okay, this is really sweet because it's not what I intended with this reading, and it's so funny to me how sometimes Spirit interprets what I'm asking. So when I was thinking of a secret to be revealed to you, I was thinking about something in your life that you're not aware of, you know, maybe something someone's hiding from you, or, you know, something about your future. And Spirit was like, we're not gonna do that. We are gonna give pile 1 a secret to their success. Like, essentially, this is, here's your formula. And it kind of breaks my heart a little bit because this really carries the energy of a message from your future self. Like, this is a message that you yourself in the future will wish that you had known now. You ever think back and like wish that you could talk to your 18-year-old self, wish that you could talk to yourself at 10 years old, you know, and all of these things that you wish you would have known, you know, hindsight is 20/20. I don't know, but personally for me, I wish that I could go back and give my younger self a hug and tell her, like, you know, it's all gonna be okay. You know, if you've ever felt that, this is kind of the energy of this reading. Your future self is really coming through very strongly and saying, the secret here to success, to happiness, to contentment, to joy, to living the life that we want for ourselves is kind of releasing this idea of victimhood and sort of like the cards or fate being stacked against you. You know, because I feel like for many of you, you kind of feel like you've been handed a crummy hand, you know, in, you know, sort of the deal of life, and kind of looking around, and I don't feel like you, I feel like you try to repress this, but it's always kind of there, where you kind of just wonder, why is it that I've had to suffer through certain things? Why have I had these challenges when I try to be a good person and I try to be the best version of myself and I try to do what's right and I try to, you know, do all the things that I'm supposed to do? You know, I there's a feeling here of like, I always do what, you know, I should do, you know, what society or my family, or maybe even like what you hear that you should be doing, you know, in tarot readings, or, you know, if you're a big believer in the law of attraction, I could see you wondering like, why is it that, you know, I am told that I have this manifestation ability and yet I'm not able to manifest what it is that I'm desiring? And I see these other people who act very poorly, don't even try, and they just seem to have all of these privileges and they just seem to have an easier time. They just seem luckier than me, and I don't understand why I have to work 2 times, 3 times, 4 times as hard as everybody else to get, you know, half of what they have. Like, why is, you know, and I feel like you don't want to feel that way. You don't want to feel, you know, I think you even feel guilty about it, so you repress those thoughts, and then it just kind of makes it worse because it festers. And so you may find yourself doing things a lot of times to escape reality. Maybe you're a big daydreamer, or you know, you have hobbies that kind of lend itself to an alternate reality. I'm like this. I'm a huge reader, you know, and I love fiction books, so that is like stepping into an alternate universe. So you may have a hobby like that. I could see video games being kind of similar in that way, and there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with reading or liking to play video games or, you know, anything like that. But I think it comes back to intention, right? Like, what is your intention with it? Are you doing it to feel a sense of fun, or are you doing it because your real life circumstances are a bit unbearable and you need a break? So to bring it all back, because I know you were like, where is she going with this? To bring it all back. The secret here, and it's kind of heartbreaking, is that you have more power than you think. You have more power than you think. And part of what is holding you back here is this almost like this desire for perfectionism and this need for control. And this need to have a guarantee when life just isn't. It's like you're trying to play a game and you're wanting there to be a rule book. You know, you're playing the game of life and you want there to be a rule book that you can study and that you can read and that you can master. And you're like, I'm willing to do all the hard work, I'm willing to learn, but just tell me what the rules are. And it's almost like Spirit is saying, there are no rules here. Like, you keep asking us for, you know, sort of what to do. And the thing is like what you should be doing is just following your own heart, following your own joy. And it's so hard to do that, right? Because society is structured in a way where you're told to do the opposite. You're told to do what's practical. You're told to play it safe. And we see all of these successful people who took a risk, who took a chance, or who had the privilege because maybe they came from a financially privileged background where they were able to take that risk and not have any consequences. But yeah, it kind of just has this feeling of unfairness. And your future self is saying, like, unburden yourself from this idea that your present circumstances are entirely your fault, or this idea that you have to be perfect or you have to be the best to find success, or, you know, this idea of a meritocracy that only the best and the brightest and the most talented succeed, because we just know that's not true. That's not true. We all have a different starting place in life. And so, yeah, I feel like your future self is really wanting to come through and saying, you're not being like karmically singled out here. Like, you know, you're not being punished by the universe, but it is time for you to relinquish some of that control and relinquish this idea of perfectionism and just come home to yourself and really try to dig deep and find out what is going to make your heart the happiest and go for that, instead of trying to live a life that will look good on the outside rather than feel good on the inside. You know, following the truth of your heart and realizing your own power. And I know it sounds corny, but I'll give an example of this, a personal example. Because of like my childhood and it being non-traditional, let's say that, I was kind of really raised with this idea of motherhood being a burden, almost like something that wasn't to strive for. You know, like a high value was placed on money in my childhood, and rather than, you know, connection, family bonds, you know, emotional fulfillment. And so when I was growing up, like, I never wanted to be a mother. I didn't play with baby dolls. I played with Barbies, but I didn't play with baby dolls, you know, like I didn't see that as something that I ever wanted, you know. And when I was growing up, I really didn't want to get married either. And it wasn't until maybe like a couple years ago where I started to realize, and part of it was honestly through having my cat and seeing how much emotional fulfillment I got from taking care of her. But I was like, you know what? I actually think that I would really enjoy being a mom. And it was such a new revelation for me. And it wasn't something that I ever even allowed myself to consider, because I was raised with this mentality of it being a burden, and that money was the thing to strive for and not home and family and togetherness and that sort of thing. And so, you know, it's going to vary for all of you, but I think for some of you, it may be helpful for you to reflect back on childhood, and even just young adulthood, and try to see where it was where you kind of lost your way a little bit. And where, oh, I'm sorry, Gracie's like scratching on her cat castle, if you can hear that. She's got like a little cat donut house. It's very cute. But anyway, maybe reflect back and try to figure out where it was that you lost your way a little bit, and when you started living your life more to the tune of what you were told you should want rather than what's actually going to make your heart happy. Because I think for some of you, you have this idea of what will, you know, make you feel content, but it's not really what's going to bring you the most emotional fulfillment. And I don't think necessarily that you need to dream bigger, but I think that you need to just ask yourself, check back in with yourself again and say, like, what is motivating me to have this wish, to have this vision? And is it really going to make me feel like a queen? Or a king? Is it really going to make me feel empowered in my life, like I'm living my life for myself? Yeah, because at the end of it, you know, at the very end of it, are you going to look back with this regret and say, you know, I really didn't live the life that I truly wanted. I lived a life that, you know, just looked good from the outside. You don't want that. So I do feel like in the future you figured this out, but there's kind of this energy of like, I wish I would have known this sooner. I wish I would have come to this conclusion sooner. And it's like your future self is trying to do that. It's trying to communicate this to you now so that you don't postpone your happiness. So that's the secret, pile one. I hope it made sense. I know it was, yeah, definitely different message than what I was expecting, but I hope it was helpful. All right, take care of pile one, and I will see you in my next one. Hey group 2, so let's find out a secret to be revealed to you. We have a blessing from a fairy determined to help you. I just love that message so much. We have Phoenix, how's that for a happily ever after? We have the Hierophant, and we also have the second house, and we have Gemini here. The second house is ruled by Taurus as well. Wow, I really like the color story in these two oracle cards. Even though they're both from two different decks, they both sort of look like autumn to me. And so I feel like a secret to be revealed to you is that there's something that you're clinging to. The Hierophant can be a little bit stubborn sometimes because it's very traditional, and there's a lot of positive aspects to tradition, but yet it can also signify being stuck in your ways, right? And within the context of your reading here, the 9th house can talk about travel and change, and philosophy, you know, and thinking in new ways. And, you know, and Gemini can talk about curiosity. You have the student and the teacher here. So the secret to be revealed to you is that whatever you've been sort of clinging on to, I don't think you've been clinging to it because you like it. I think you've been clinging to it because it's all that you have. You know, it's like you're living in a burning house, but at least it's a house. You know what I mean? So whatever you've been holding on to, it's not because you love it or because you like it. It's just because it's sort of this attitude of like, well, something is better than nothing, and if this goes, I don't know what's gonna happen to me. And so, you know, it's a general reading, so it's gonna look like different things, but it's like Spirit is, with this fairy card here, determined to help you get out. And so you may feel like you're totally alone in this. Sorry, Gracie's like shaking around. Her little bell on her collar is making a racket. But whatever you've been clinging to here, I think you're gonna dance on like the ashes of this thing. You know, the secret here is that just get ready, get prepared, because something's being burned to the ground here. Like, it feels like a Tower card moment almost, but it's welcomed. You know, like, Spirit is going to help you get out of this. And Gracie Poo, Kitty. I'm sorry, she's making a lot of noise. Spirit is determined to help you in this. And so, you know, I feel like, again, you have felt so alone. You've been wanting and maybe praying for change and yet being terrified of it at the same time. And it's like, just get ready, because change is coming. You know, with autumn, it talks about letting something go, right? It's a season of letting something go. And, you know, I think it's going to look from the outside like a disaster, right? Like, you know, but I think that you're rejoicing in this. You know, it's like other people would look at it and think that you've had a failure of some sort, or a mistake or a setback, you know, a loss of some sort, but you're so happy to see this end. You're so happy to let it go. And kind of, it's almost like Spirit is helping you get out of this, but taking away the responsibility of it. Because you may have been afraid that if you were to let this thing go, or to walk away from it, or to end whatever this is, you might have been afraid that other people would judge you for it, or say you're being reckless, or you're being irresponsible, or, you know, it's just that scarcity, that maybe even a survival fear here, that you're afraid of, like, what's going to happen. And it's like Spirit is saying, you know what? We're going to take away the burden of responsibility and just end it for you. And you won't have to worry about, did I make the wrong choice in leaving, because we're just going to force you out, you know? And I think that it's going to give you your happily ever after, you know, so to speak here. And I think other people would, again, look at it like a failure, a setback, but you're looking at it like the best thing that ever happened to you. So for example, like a very basic example, but let's say you were staying in a job that was making you miserable because, hey, it's a paycheck. And so maybe Spirit intervenes and you end up getting fired from that job, and other people are like, oh, I'm so sorry, you lost your job. You know, but internally you just feel so relieved. You're like, finally. And I think that they're telling you this now, so A, you can mentally prepare for this, emotionally prepare for this, but also to reassure you that when this ending happens, they have something so incredible planned for you. For many of you, it is financially related, or in some way related to your sense of security and stability with the second house of Taurus. And with Gemini here, it just kind of gives this strong energy of friendship almost. Like, we're your friend, we're doing this to help you, and we just want to communicate that clearly to you, that you can let the old go. And you don't have to fear this change. And what we have in store for you is so positive and so wonderful. And it's a sense of freedom. It's a sense of freedom that's being given to you here. So don't be afraid of this. You know, don't be fearful of it. And just get excited for this thing to fall away from your life, because what's on the other side of it is so incredible and so wonderful. I wonder if they would give us a hint about it. They may not be able to, because it's a general reading, so, you know, it could vary. But Spirit, can you just give us some possibilities here of like what is on the other side of this Phoenix moment? You know, a Phoenix rises from the ashes, right? So what's on the other side of this? Knight of Pentacles, so an increase in your finances or your stability for some of you. Two of Cups, for some of you it's love, it's healthy, happy connection. King of Swords, an ability to speak your truth for others of you. And feel free to claim all three messages if you want, whatever resonates for you. This is beautiful. I'm very excited for you. What a nice message. All right, pile 2, this was your reading. Best of luck to you in all your endeavors, and I will see you in the next one. Hi, group 3. If you were drawn to pile 1, go ahead and watch pile 1, because as I was getting your stuff together, I had a little notification, you know, the banner notifications on my phone, and it was saying, because it's from the CoStar app, and it was saying, is there a difference between what you want and what you say that you want? And that reminded me so much of group 1. So if you were drawn to group 1, there are definitely some messages there for you. Okay, so we have Aquarius here, we have the first house, we have a blessing of the grouping Fae, we have Clover, release your guilt, and we have the Chariot. This feels so much like group 1. The secret to be revealed to you is almost like there's going to be some sort of event here. And for some of you, it's as simple as having a conversation with a friend, but there's some sort of event happening that kind of pushes you to have an epiphany moment, and that epiphany is the secret that's being revealed to you. It's almost like it finally clicks for you what your purpose is, what your path is, because this here talks about having the freedom and the courage and the knowledge of where you're meant to go and what you're meant to do. And then Clover here, release your guilt. Like, release your guilt about what you think you should be doing, what you think other people want you to do, or what other people expect you to do. And just going for what is truly going to make you happy. You know, even if it makes someone else sad or makes someone else uncomfortable or makes someone else disappointed in you, you only have one life to live, you know, and they have their own life and they have their own choices. You can't live your life to please somebody else. You know, some of you may be walking a path that you think will be pleasing to your family, or you may be doing something for, you know, I'm actually thinking about in Friends when Chandler's always made, you know, a lot of money and none of his friends seem to know what he does, and it kind of makes him miserable. And he's always, you know, giving money to Joey for his acting career, and, you know, he lets Monica have all of his savings pretty much for her dream wedding, which was crazy to me that she expected that of him. But you know, and then finally he decides, you know, I just want to go into marketing, I think is what he ends up doing, or advertising or something like that. And so he's a lot older, starting in an entry-level position, and, you know, it's like starting from scratch in his career, but he just had to do it for himself, you know. And I was so happy when that happened in his, you know, like story arc, because I'm like, finally this character is doing something for himself. You know, he's not just financially funding other people's dreams, you know, he's doing something for himself. And, you know, I feel like there was a lot of stuff tied up in that because him and Monica were wanting to start a family. So I'm sure if this character was a real life person, maybe he would have been thinking about, you know, if I go after my dream career here, or if I try something different, or just give myself permission to try something different, you know, is that going to mean I don't have a college fund for my future kid? You know, something like that. So I feel like there's an unburdening here for you. Like something clicks for you and you stop carrying the weight around of someone else's dreams or expectations for you. Whatever it is, you know, whatever has been holding yourself back a little bit, you're finally making the choice with the Chariot and moving towards, I mean, both of these cards look like movement, right? Like traveling somewhere and, you know, releasing guilt about it because it's something that's going to make you happy. For others of you, like maybe you've always wanted to move somewhere, but you have guilt because you're like, my family's gonna miss me, my friends are gonna miss me, but you gotta go, right? Like at the end of the day, like you have that desire, you have that heart's calling for a reason. And is it really benefiting you to stay to please other people? Or can you just go and try something new? Can you just go? Can you give yourself the freedom to just try something? with the first house here, this is really tied up in your identity. Like, this is something at your core that you are really being called towards. And the secret here is you're not crazy. Like, you have that calling, you have that urge for a reason, you have that desire for a reason. I like to watch Kino Tarot. If you guys also watch her, put it down in the comments, but she's one of my favorite tarot readers on YouTube. And I've heard her say this message before in readings where she basically says, you have this desire or you have this calling towards something not to taunt you. You know, you don't have that dream to taunt you. That dream was implanted in you because you were meant to have it. You were meant to realize that dream, that wish, that desire, that calling. You were meant to, you know, have it materialize for you in the real world. It's not put there to torture you, you know? Like, if you have always had this inkling that you were meant to be a musician, you have that inkling for a reason. Or if you have always been drawn to Spain for some reason and you don't know why, maybe you were meant to go there, you know? Like, I think sometimes we like question and analyze these little intuitive nudges so much, and we try to make logical sense of it. But, you know, the heart wants what the heart wants. The soul wants what the soul wants. You know, it's not really meant to be analyzed in that way. You're just meant to act upon it and just see what happens. See what happens. And I know it's not as easy as I'm making it sound. Like, I get that. I get that it's going to take you a while to figure this out in practical terms. But I think that you're at least going to be at a place where you can acknowledge it. So, yeah, I feel like it's just some kind of, and it's a little moment. It's a little moment. You know, you're going about your day to day. And I think really for many of you, it's a conversation with somebody. It's just a simple conversation. With Aquarius here, I do think it's going to be a conversation with a friend, but it's just someone in your day-to-day environment. You have a talk with them, and at some point it just clicks, and you're like, you know what? I am going to try to do that thing that I've always wanted to do. And it's going to have a major impact on how you see yourself and how you sort of conceptualize your identity. And with Aquarius here, you know, Aquarius isn't afraid to be different. And so I feel like you're going to follow a path that is uniquely yours. And I feel like this entire reading is essentially, the secret is kind of just a green light from Spirit saying, go for it. Go for it. And when you have that moment, when you're talking with someone and it clicks for you, don't push it down. Don't push it down. Embrace it. And yes, it's going to be scary. It's going to be scary, but if you're asking where your success lies, if you're asking like, where is my path? It's here. It's here, you know? Like, you already know what it is. It's already within you. It's just a matter of you giving yourself permission to acknowledge it, you know? Because some of you, you know, you really may say, I want this because it's socially acceptable to want that, or it's in alignment with what your family wants. You know, a very basic example would be like, maybe you come from a family of doctors, and everyone expects you to go to med school or nursing school or to be a pharmacist or something, and you have just never really clicked with that, but because your family wants it for you, you've just, and you know doctors, you know, make good money, you're like, okay, I'm gonna follow that path, but it's not what you truly want. And maybe you're really afraid to say what you truly want because it's not as socially acceptable, or it's not something that anyone else in your family has ever tried, and it makes you nervous, but in your heart of hearts, you know that is what you truly feel that you are. Okay, so pile 3, this was your reading. Again, if you were drawn to pile 1, maybe go check that out. Please take care. I'm wishing you the very best, and I will see you in my next one.